This is a part of the Story Over Everything Collective. This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mgminus.com. So, I want to talk about... Oh, by the way, this is Henshin Inspection. A random episode of Henshin Inspection. I think I'm going to start doing topical issues, or topical episodes, outside of everything else I do. It'll all be on the Henshin Inspection feed, but you don't care about that right now. You just care about what I have to say. So, here's what I have to say. I've been sitting on this thing for a while. Kamen Rider Black is one of my favorite Kamen Riders. Kamen Rider Black Sun doesn't look so great to me. I received an interesting comment from somebody talking about how they like the organic armor look. I received a comment from somebody talking about how it reminds them of Bataman, which, if you don't know, in the first episode of Kamen Rider Black, when Minami Kotaro, I really am a real fan, okay? When Minami Kotaro first transforms into the Guyver, into Kamen Rider Black, he is stepping through a doorway, and he has a weird kaijin, or what did they call them? They were called mutants in the Century King subs. I don't know. Oh, gosh, I should look at the official Toei one, but they probably ripped it from Century Kings anyway. In the official subs, they're known as mutants. So the Crisis Empire, they're people from different dimension in Black RX, but in Kamen Rider Black proper, there are these mutants who have existed for a long time, and every now and then they have a chance for one of them to become, or there's this deal where they can somehow emerge and take control of Earth, I guess, from somewhere, and they can amass all this power to themselves and then end up ruling over Earth. And anyway, yeah, that's the thing. So as part of that process, even though the rest of the monsters from Golgum are actual mutant type monsters, at least that's how they call them, for whatever reason, Shadow Moon and Black Sun, who are the Century Kings, who are supposed to fight each other to the death to gain both, so that one can gain the other's Kingstone, so they can have two Kingstones and then become the new Century King or Creation King and like dominate humanity, which I don't know who sets those rules, but somebody does. Anyway, the goal is for them to fight each other and to become Creation King, and I really think it's a plot for the real villain of the show, the actual Creation King from at the very end of the show that you get to see. I think it's for him to like inhabit them and take over, but the point is they have their Kamen Rider suits, right? You know, they look like a Kamen Rider basically without a scarf, and they've got the belt, they've got this, you know, techno armor or whatever, but you know, you see a giant grasshopper head as Minami Kotaro is transforming, and you see like I said in the first episode, this flash of this legitimate grasshopper suit of a grasshopper kaijin, or a grasshopper mutant, which he could have been, and before Shadow Moon emerges from his cocoon because his conversion or metamorphosis process is interrupted, he is in this weird, gross, white grasshopper looking form, which, by the way, the place I'm living now, there's a bunch of little white grasshoppers, which is cool because it makes me think of Shadow Moon. It actually just made me think of Shadow Moon, but still, I'll never be able to look at them again without thinking about Nobuhiko. So anyway, the thing is, I think it's interesting that they're going with this organic armor in light of all this stuff, in light of the Bataman, and in light of these other things that some people have brought up as I've kind of been complaining about the fact, and just, you know, not complaining so much, but just stating the fact that I am less than comfortable with the new look. Something about it just seems off to me, seems like they're trying a little too hard, seems like a lot of things, but then in the context of it, yeah, they are going sort of more organically and more authentically with some of what Ishinomori's original vision was, because if you read the Kamen Rider Black manga, which I've had the privilege of doing, and I'm hoping 7 Seas does an official release of it soon so I can buy that, especially with Black Sun coming out in the year of our Lord 2022, I think it would be a great idea, and I'd love to have an official copy of Kamen Rider Black, the manga by Ishinomori, so I can hold it in my hand, just like the Go Ranger manga, just like the Kamen Rider manga. Then they got to do a Kikaider and a Cyborg. I want everything. Anyway, I do like the idea of that, because in the Kamen Rider Black manga, he is a little bit more organic. He has the little spikes on him like a grasshopper would have on its legs. He has some more interesting features. He's a little more grotesque and a little more monstrous, which makes sense. And honestly, one of my complaints about Ishinomori's work, as much as I like him, as much as I like his work, is that Kamen Rider looks too much like a hero character. And he looks so distinct from the rest of the Shocker cyborgs that it kind of doesn't make any sense to me that he would look like that when the rest of them don't. I think Kamen Rider first had it right, where they made the Hopper monsters from Shocker look like the Cobra monster from Shocker, or Cyborg, I mean, and the Spider Cyborg from Shocker as well. That made a lot of sense to me. I'm about to get off track of what I actually want to talk about, so I will course correct and just say I'm willing to give these suits a chance. You know, it's too late. They're already made, right? I'm not going to affect it, but I'm going to go into it with an open mind and not judge the show by its suits. But after watching the trailer and seeing more comments from people talking about how it reminds them of Kamen Rider Amazons and how it's a great jumping on point, and it also is airing on Kamen Rider, or it also is airing or whatever on Amazon. That's where it'll be streaming. It made me think about Kamen Rider Amazon. So I went ahead and I looked at Amazons, and I vaguely remembered that Amazons had a crossover with some Rider show. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was actually the, I don't know, one of the like 50th or 49th anniversary movies where like all the Kamen Riders came back, and like Manga Kuga was there as like a manga panel kicking somebody, and the Amazon writers, or the Amazons writers, were there as well. Like, I think that's really neat and interesting. But here's the thing, those Amazons suits look cool, and they look more like the manufactured you know, combat armor that like Kamen Rider Black had, or even the original Kamen Rider had, and less like this weird organic grotesque SIC type armor that, you know, Black Sun and Shadow Moon have, but, you know, in this reboot. But like I said, I'm willing to look past the designs and let them grow on me, because one of the guys who commented on me talking about the suits, he mentioned Guyver, and I like Guyver, so there's nothing wrong with a bio armor. It's just, it's kind of weird for Black Sun to have it. So anyway, getting back to my point, you know, it's called Kamen Rider Black Sun. It's not Kamen Rider Bleak. And or as I put on the card, Kamen Rider ain't Bleak Sun. Like, that's not the thing. That's not the thing. Kamen Rider is serious, and it's kind of sad, and it's a little bit, you know, lonely and desperate, but there's a message of hope overall. That being said, the Kamen Rider Black manga does kind of end on a downer, but like the tone of it, of how it looks, isn't bad. And getting back to the Amazons writers, when they showed up in whatever that was, whatever movie that was, they looked cool. Like, not only are their suits like a normal Kamen Rider design, but just like kind of like an elevated design. They're very well done. They look really slick, very cool. But they were lit like the rest of the stuff was. Now, if you go look at Amazons, it looks really like a, I don't know, is it the MCU or the DC movies, or is it both of them that do like these muted, like blue, gray, like a grim tone over everything that kind of like sucks the color out of it and like neutralizes everything? That's how it looks. That's how Amazon's looks, and it's frustrating to me because you don't need to do that to be serious. You don't need to do that to be taken seriously. A serious show, you know, a midnight toku, is Lion Maruji. I've never watched Garo, so I won't comment on Garo. But Lion Maruji is a midnight toku. It's that style of show where it's more serious or whatever, but it was still bright. Like, it was still fairly bright and, you know, fairly well lit. There's a certain look you can have when you're trying to be serious and cool that makes it feel like you're insecure about the thing that you're doing, and that's kind of the sense I get from like that trailer being so serious looking and by that bio armor. But I did notice that the lighting of the trailer isn't as bad as or it's not as bad. It's different. Amazon's has that like muted, like just grime filter over everything to make it look like a desaturated, less alive world. And the Kamen Rider Black trailer didn't look like that, but the atmosphere was serious with the protests and all that stuff going on. So we'll see. Maybe it'll end up being more like Kamen Rider Zeto or J, which would be good, or maybe even Shin to a lesser extent. I think Shin went a little far from what it should be as far as the tone that it struck for Kamen Rider, but J and Zeto are really good. They're really solid. Like, Zeto would be a perfect thing for like an adult serious person to get them into Toku. Either that or like Guyver 2 Dark Hero. And that's, you know, stupid because it has dark in the title of it, but I love that movie. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but I watched it a ton, and it got me into Guyver anime and Tokusatsu. I mean, like, the Guyver anime, and then generally it made me have a love for Tokusatsu, the Henshin hero stuff specifically. But anyway, yeah, the tone of the show can be bright and poppy and shiny, but the visual tone of it can be like that, but it can still have the characters struggling with dark things, and it can look appealing. It can have that kind of like candy shell on the outside, and once you bite into it, there's this whole depth of flavor there that will really work. And I think that's what Kamen Rider should be. I don't know, I've heard really good things about Amazon's. I'm doing this crazy thing where, because I think, because partly it's like a joke, but the YouTube channel says that Kamen Rider Black Sun is a controversial take or reimagining of Kamen Rider Black, and I think the real controversial adaptation of Kamen Rider Black is Kamen Rider Black RX's, being turned into Saban's Masked Rider. So I'm doing a little thing with that, just kind of for fun, straight out of Eden. You can find that over on mjmunus.com and look at all the stuff. I'll have it published on Henshin Inspection as well, so you can check that out. After I'm done with that, we'll see what I do. I'm trying to figure out the balance of how to do stuff quickly, because I kind of overdo things, and I need to find the balance and get stuff done in a timely manner, because I want to release a lot more content. But yeah, I'm just worried that the tone of this isn't going to feel like Kamen Rider. I think it'll feel too, I don't know, adult or boring, or I don't know, something. It won't feel right, and it'll kind of be missing the point of Kamen Rider. But I'd like to give Amazon's another shot and see how I like it, and if it's too bleak and too serious for me or not. Because it could be, and that would stink. But then again, I don't have to watch it, and I didn't watch it before. But if that's how it was, and this is, in the vein of it, this Kamen Rider Black Sun's, or this Kamen Rider Black Sun project, then that'll tell me that I probably won't enjoy it as much, and that'll be disappointing, because I'm such a big fan of Kamen Rider Black. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say. Kamen Rider can be serious, it can be dark, it can be kind of edgy, it can have this, like, I don't know, realistic, weary outlook on the world, but just because it's like that doesn't mean the characters need to be dark. Well, yeah, it doesn't mean the characters need to be dark. It doesn't mean that they need to be grimly flawed, and it doesn't mean that they have to look grimy and run down. Like, that just, it's not true. Like, you can have it be grounded, a grounded Kamen Rider, whatever that is, and still look shiny and poppy and cool and slick and stylish. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's what Anno's going to be doing with his Kamen Rider, or Shin Kamen Rider project. And I think that's a good thing. And even, like, I actually hate with a passion Drive and Gaim. And I can explain why. If you want to know, ask me, and I'll tell you pretty quickly. I actually hate those, and I don't feel like they're real Kamen Rider. But even they had the bright, poppy, shiny tone correct, while this project seems like it might not. And definitely, like I said, Amazon's didn't feel like it was that way to me. So anyway, we'll see how that is. If you really liked Amazon's, give me a reason to watch it. Tell me some of its fine points, and why I would dig it, and why it's worthy of the Kamen Rider name, and why it's why it has the Kamen Rider spirit, and why it's a legitimate part of the Kamen Rider legacy. I'd love to hear your opinions on that. But that's it for me. This is MJ signing out. I leave you with peace and blessings.